All right, here we are. Just got finished up with the Lake Wheeler Bassmaster Elite Series event down there. It was early June, mid-June, and we had a really good event. Ended up in 20th place, but I was in the top 10 after the first 2 days. I think it was 6th place the first day, 4th place after the second day. I had 18-2 day 1, 16-6 day 2. Day 3, no big fish, all small fish. I really struggled. I had a limit, caught about 8 keepers that day, but I had a really small limit, right at 7 pounds. So slid all the way down to 20th place. So that day 3 was a little bit disappointing, but we had some fantastic action on days 1 and 2. So just gonna walk you through. I basically caught everything on 3 baits for all 3 days. So that was really kind of how that went down. Days 1, I stopped on a little area that I had a spook bite in practice, and this thing right here, the old school Zero spook, had the Gamakatsu #2 round bend trebles on there, and then I hand tied a real thin feather on these ones. That's the new Nano Alpha, and had that on there, and you can see I put double split rings on it so it would, you know, have a little better hookup ratio. But that was what I stopped on the very first place, and I caught 3 fish, 3 good ones, 2 really good ones that I ended up weighing that day with my 18-pound bag, and then two other keepers. Had that on. Actually, it was a cash and chatterbait rod, and because it's got kind of that moderate, you know, a little softer moderate action, but it's a 7-1 rod, and I like it for spooks as well. And then I was throwing that on the Sunline 50-pound AMZ. That is really smooth line, you know, in comparison to the Assegai plasma line. That the plasma is a little bit bigger diameter, like diameter for diameter. This is a touch smaller, and I would say just I don't know if I'd say smoother, but it's very smooth line, casts really well. So you can have 50-pound on the Daiwa Zillion and just throw it as far as you want to throw, and you're not going to throw all of the line off. I mean, this thing absolutely bombs it a mile, and that was the deal for me that first morning. I caught some other key fish on that we'll get to here in a minute. Excuse me. But then after that, I would settle in fishing the majority of the day, fishing grass lines, fishing eel grass lines specifically, with a 1/2 ounce jackhammer chatterbait. The chatterbait that I was throwing was a green pumpkin, but my trailer was key. That's the Missile Baits Spunk Shad, the 4.5 inch in Goby Bite was the color. And look, and I had even had one bite the little pintail off of there on the last day. But that was the bait that I was throwing. Probably caught about 14 or 15 keepers day 1. I wish the limit that I called on day 1, I wish I had it on day 3, because I would have made the top 10. But anyway, had a really good day on day 1 with that chatterbait. That's what did a lot of the heavy lifting on day 2 as well. And then I was throwing that on Sunline Shooter 18-pound test. That's really what I like on my chatterbaits for most situations. You can throw 16, keep that bait down a little bit better, maybe make it a little bit more erratic. But again, Daiwa Zillion, real 7-to-1 gear ratio, just like the spook. Cash-in. This is part of the kayak series. This is the Chattergrass rod. This is a really good chatterbait rod. And just for those people that are wondering, we may be having something to help chatterbait take to the next level coming soon. Just saying from the rod perspective. But that rod right there is, I had 2 of them, 2 identical ones set up, and I would just get on those grass lines, make as long a cast as I could make and go, and then I just try to get that chatterbait down in the grass, pop it free. A lot of times when I popped it free, that's when they would get it. And then sometimes you throw it out there and that bait goes down to the bottom. I start reeling, it would make like 3 or 4 chatters, and then boom, they would be on there. That to me tells me that those fish in that vicinity saw that bait going down, were interested, and as soon as it started chattering, they just clocked it. So that was that. And then on day 2, I went back in the same little same little creek area where I went and caught some of my fish in 2016 when I finished 3rd there, and I threw the actual same bait as the little small Vixen topwater bait, and I changed it out for short shank EWG number 4 treble hooks on the front too, and then on the back, this is the Gamakatsu number 4 feathered treble. It's got that little bit of a pink touch to it. Really like that. And also threw that on the 50-pound AMZ braid. So that was yeah, for the same reason. And I threw that on this is typically what I throw topwaters on, is a Cashin 7-foot Icon. It's a worm jig rod, but it's a medium heavy. And it's a nice medium heavy because it's not super tip, super backbone. Most worming rods are like 80%, 20% tip. This is more like 75% backbone, 25% tip. I wouldn't call it a full moderate action, but it's a little on the more moderate side than a lot of medium heavies, and that's why I really like it for the topwaters. Been throwing this rod for a long time for topwaters, and I really like it. I've caught a zillion fish on this rod, really good landing percentages. And, that 5.7 I caught with this exact setup on day 2. It was up in a little tiny creek, man. That fish jumped, I think, about 4 times, and finally got my hands under it, and it was got that fish in the boat. So that was really exciting. You can see that on YouTube. Bassmaster's got a really good footage of it, so I'll probably scab that off of there and share that at some point. But those are really the three setups that I was using. And on day 3, nothing was really working. Ended up catching some fish, some keepers on this. Caught some keepers on the chatterbait as well. But looking back on it, I really was probably trying to force the chatterbait bite too much when it was just not working. It was just I was not catching any quality, and the bites were a little too far in between. So something had changed, and looking back on it, I wish I would have tried some deeper places that I was familiar with. I did call a couple audibles and I tried a fair amount of topwater during that day, during day 3, and didn't get any. Man, if I'd have just gotten 2 respectable bites on topwater, my bag could have looked a lot different and had a lot different result. But that's the things, some things you try and you think they might work, and then they don't. And then afterwards you're always like, oh man, I should have tried this or should have tried that. You always second guess yourself, but that's what fishing is, and that's why we always learn, and we always try to do better the next time, no matter how good you end up. And even if you win, sometimes it seems like that you learn things and you can get better from your experiences. So if you have any questions or comments, as always, drop it down there. And that's right, we were on the river with my boys, Whiskey Myers. I wish I was. They were out playing somewhere out west, I think this past week. I think they were at Red Rocks, one of those epic shows I wish I could have gone to, but I'll get back and see them guys again here this fall, I'm sure. But I appreciate everybody watching. And again, drop your questions down there, and thank you very much.